smart and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new What If video following the one I did for VHS last week. This one is not going to be for an independent movie. This is going to be for a film that came out last year. And, it's a film I do like, but I kind of wish some improvements were made to it to kind of make it slightly better. Because there are some criticisms I agree with this movie on. And this film is going to be for, I think you all know, 2022's fifth installment of a horror franchise. This requel, Scream 2022, or Scream 5 as it should be called, because it's not really a requel. I don't know why it's called a requel. It's literally set after Scream 4. They even mentioned the events of Scream 4 in it. Because it's supposed to be a take on requels, but whatever. Anyways, so yeah. So we all know like how it was made, obviously, although 5th and 6th Scream installments were discussed after the release of Scream 4 2011. Craven and writer Kevin Williamson and executive producer Harvey Weinstein had doubts about proceeding with more films following the less than expected possible performance of the 4th film. And then after the 27 sexual assault allegations against Harvey and the closure of the Weinstein Company, the rest of the Scream franchise were retained by Spyglass Media Group in November 2019, and then confirmed a new film would later be made. The following year, Williamson, who was returning as executive producer, confirmed the film would not be a reboot, and that Benatelli, Olpen, and Gillett of Radio Silence had been hired in March 2020 to direct the film. Campbell and Arquette were confirmed to be returning later that month, with Cox and the new cast members joining for the middle of the year. The film's production was delayed due to the pandemic, so filming took place between September and November 2020 in North Carolina. And to avoid any plot leaks, numerous versions of the screenplay were produced and several additional scenes were filmed. So yeah. The movie was released last year on January 14, 2022 by Paramount Pictures, grossed $140 million worldwide, and was praised by critics for honoring Craven's legacy and offering thoughtful meta-commentary on horror films. Some even called it the best of the Scream sequels, that I don't really agree with. And we're getting a 6th film this year in March 2023. However, not all reactions were that positive. Some YouTubers went on to resent the film and viewed it as the worst of the series. YouTubers like Rambo Rat for Life, Jurassic Godzilla Fan, and OCB Communications, in particular, they even hated how the film treated Dewey. Now, as for me, I thought the film was somewhat good. Oh, come on, for Pete's sake, would you just let me explain? But it's nowhere good like I found it on the first watch. In fact, when I rewatched it a second time, it went down a grade for many reasons. Specifically, the Dewey reason in particular. Basically, as some of you who have watched the movie all know, Dewey's now divorced, living as a drunk in a trailer, and Afton Harley does the thing the whole movie and gets a pathetic kill-off by the new Ghostface, who is this teenage girl that's not even as big in height as he is. So yeah, that was one criticism I have to agree with a lot of people on. That death was pretty lame, and I feel like if they wanted to kill him off, they could have done it better. So that's specifically what this movie is going to be about. Like, what if Dewey played a main role, or the original trio played a better role in this movie, and if Dewey had a better death? How my version of killing him off would have went. So here we go. So basically, most of the film would obviously play out the same, but I would have made a lot of changes to it. So, kind of the first few scenes start off kind of the same. Then once the edits happen when we finally get to Dewey. So here's how we would first see Dewey. In my version, it goes like this. Yes, he's still retired from the force, but he's not living in a trailer park. he's instead living in a cottage in the woods instead, and we see despite being divorced now, he still has a successful role. So he's still like successfully praised as their former sheriff. There's people still praise him for what he did. And we see on the walls in his house, many other accomplishments he's still made with his life. And this cottage is actually in the woods, and it actually seems like a better place from retirement for a legendary character in this franchise. Because like this, Dewey was actually my favorite of the original trio. So I feel like a place in the woods would seem like a better place for retirement for a legendary character. Kind of a house kind of somewhat similar to the one Tony Stark lived in and around the 5 years later part in Endgame, which was kind of near the lake. So that was kind of my inspiration for the change in setting. After his first scene, like how most of the movie still plays out, and after a scene of him meeting the new characters during that reboot sequel chats, I forget one of the new characters' names. It was that person's house, the one who discussed all the reboot sequels. With the 3 attacks being on people related to some capacity to the original characters, then of course we all know Mindy deduces that the killer is following the rules of a requel and continuation of a narrative that derives heavily from the plot of the original, and using Turner Friends as a new generation, and Sam's connection to Billy Loomis as a way to wave the legacy characters. And stuff. That scene kind of still plays out, but these new characters, in the scene one of them says, so one of them even tells Dewey, what if the killer could be you? I think that's how it goes. I think I need to rewatch the film, but I remember that's how it went. That would not happen. No, that would be completely omitted. They'd still acknowledge Dewey. They'd still praise Dewey. That stupid shit would not happen. No, that line was really dumb. And y'all know the death scene after this comes the death scene of Judy Hicks and her son. Yeah, it was her son that said that line. It's that character. This is where the other rewrites start to happen. Here, I would only have her son be killed in the house scene. And then Judy manages to arrive to the whole scene. Now, Judy would kind of be the new sheriff taking over. She realizes that her son was murdered as soon as she gets back to her house and sees the crime scene. And she then discovers it was kind of clearly this new Ghostface killer, and secretly follows Dewey and Sam to the hospital to help them take down the Ghostface killer and avenge her son, and even kind of realizes her rude attitude in the first scene we saw with her and Sam Carpenter. She kind of has a bit of a realization of her selfishness in that scene, and decides to kind of somewhat redeem herself and likely try to avenge her son's death. And then during the hospital scene where Dewey and Sam shows up to save Tara and Richie from Ghostface, Judy Hicks then shows up and tells the four to leave so she can hold off Ghostface. Because technically she probably knows she'll probably die. Decides to try to take down Ghostface because her son's dead. She's kind of got nothing left to live for now. Judy Hicks then kind of shows up and tells the four... I already said that part. Well, but she does not die from an incoming phone call like Dewey did in the actual film. She realizes she can't fully defeat Ghostface, and guys, we're going to see why she can't fully defeat Ghostface. I'm going to get to that part in a bit. She lets herself be killed, since she clearly doesn't have much to live for. And now, you guys know, and you all know Sydney barely plays a role in this movie, doesn't really have a lot of screen time. The only scenes we really see of her are this, little brief scene, with this phone call scene, and where she's, taking a jog in the park. And then of course comes near the finale when she learns Dewey's death. She played a bit of a better role here. I feel like she deserved more scenes. I mean, I get her story's over, but still. There's an additional add-on that would actually give Sydney a reason to actually show up for the end. Because I feel like her return was a bit shoehorned in without any explanation. She pretty much sees the news footage of all the recent killings, and then gets a thought about going back to Woodsboro one final time to aid her two friends into ending this killer and the killings for good. And then the whole hospital moment gets kind of reversed. The whole hospital, this time, since my version, Dewey doesn't die in the hospital scene, we kind of see Dewey grieving over Judy Hicks. Then Sydney then arrives in town after arrives in town and meets both Dewey and Sam at the hospital. Sidney then asks Sam to help stop the killer, like obviously how the film goes and all, but Sam declines and wants to leave town with Richie and Tara. But of course, our three original trio follow the trio to Amber's house, which obviously we know is Stu's former house now. Remember the earlier scene of Tara, like, the earlier scene where they're with the reboot sequel talk in that house, like, Tara would, this version, Tara would actually leave early, says she had to go take care of some things at her home and stuff, and then, of course, we get another moment of that here, like, when the memorial party happens for Judy Hicks' son's character. Oh, right, his name's Wes. And there we're shown this unmarked room door in it that Amber tells Liv, like, not to go into, as it's not supposed to be accessed according to the rules of the house. And after our characters obviously arrive at the place, and Shannon and Mindy are both attacked by Ghostface. As the friend group convenes, of course, we all know Amber pulls out a gun, shoots Liv in the head, and then we finally, here's why I explained that Judy could not defeat this Ghostface. This Ghostface is going to have a bit of a surprise cameo. I know this may piss some people off, and it's going to be a bit of a cheap move, but trust me on this one, guys. She opens that unmarked door, and out of it comes our person wearing this Ghostface costume. Guess what? And guess who's wearing this Ghostface costume? Alright, what is it? No. It's, guess what? A still alive Stu from the first film. Now, yes, I know. You're pulling a Palpatine bullshit, you hypocrite. Guys, some fans actually, it's somewhat, his face, now because he got the TV smashed on him in the first film, he now kind of somewhat resembles Freddy Krueger's face, a little throwback to Freddy Krueger after the TV got slammed onto his face in the first film. But this honestly wouldn't have been a revival I wouldn't have minded. Even some fans wanted Stu to come back. Basically, how it all went was he somehow did kind of manage to survive a TV incident with obvious face injuries, barely anyways. While Billy was being defeated, he managed to sneak out the house through the window, badly injured and stuff, and he pretty much now, because people knew he was the killer, he had to go on the run all over pretty much the world slowly, and as he kind of started to recover from his face, he had to remove all evidence of himself that it looked like he really did die. And he now kind of wants revenge on the original trio for ruining his reputation, and had to wait for the right moment to return to Woodsboro to spark this new killing spree. And he needed two accomplices this time to make it more successful and actually go as planned. But however, and instead of the kind of pathetic fight with Amber, because Amber was kind of a pathetic ghost face before she died, she immediately starts to plead for Gail and Sidney to spare her, and that's which was kind of a stupid scene. None of the other ghost faces do that. Even Jill Tuck from the fourth one did not even do that. No, not Jill Tuck. Even Joe Prescott did not even do that in the fourth. So yeah, he would basically quickly betray Amber because he feels like she's the most useless of the two he has. Then the original trio arrive, and of course Richie would still be revealed to be Tara's attacker. And of course, the reason why Judy couldn't defeat Ghostface is because pretty much I'll call this version of Stu Freddy Stu, or Krueger face Stu, because that was the Ghostface in the hospital scene. So. And Freddy Stu even revealed he was disappointed in tragedy taken with all the Stab movies, not the newest one, all of them. And he decides he's going to also make his version with this new killing spree, bringing back the original cast to provide new and improved source material to a future Stab film, and he would still intend to frame Sam as a killer. That part would still be the same. Sam, of course, attacks Richie, and Tara tries to attack Freddy Stu, but she's quickly incapacitated then Freddy Stu has Richie go after Sam while he decides to try to take down Sidney, Dewey, and Gail. And during this fight, this is where Dewey's death would really happen. Here we go. During this fight, he quickly attempts to kill Sidney first, and Sidney was the one that caused his face injuries and pretty much destroyed his reputation and stuff, because remember the TV in the first film. But of course, Dewey decides to take the fatal stab, so he pretty much dies protecting Sydney. Instead of pathetically dying with a phone call, he'd actually die protecting the other two main characters. And of course, Freddy Stu would then get what was Amber's death during the whole moment he's distracted killing Dewey. Of course, remember when Gil shot Amber into that little, into the light on stove or something, and then she caught fire. This would be Freddy Stu's death. And this time he actually really died. This time he kind of fully burns for good and fully looks a little more fatal. And Richie's death still would play out the same. Then after that, an even more horribly burnt Freddy Stu, who would now look like Chucky, a human version of Chucky's burnt body from the first Child's Play, a throwback to that. Attempts to attack the group again, but instead of being shot by Tara, he's actually shot to death in the head by Sydney, and or shot in the heart, actually. Shot in the heart by Sydney instead of Tara. So yeah. I know this doesn't really sound much different, but those are the minor changes I would have made if I were the director of Scream 5. The rest of the ending would also still play out the same, but there would be a bit of an add-on to it. There would still be a funeral scene for Dewey at the end of the film, and at the funeral scene, Gil decides not to obviously write about the new murders and get the killer's notoriety and to avoid causing another Ghostface killing. And instead decides to write a tribute about Dewey instead, and all the characters also agree never to go back to Woodsboro again. And of course, our last scene we would obviously see of Sam and Tara is in the ambulance as the knife ends are covered in a news report, and then the funeral scene would happen after the whole ambulance scene would happen. Then yeah, the movie would actually end with the funeral scene, and that way with the funeral scene it feels more like a proper end to the franchise, because I feel like this movie only works better as just a one and done. I don't think we need to have a sixth film, because I don't see the point. I mean, plus, not to mention, this sixth film is going to go to New York. And hey guys, it seems exciting that a slasher icon is going to go to New York, but do you guys remember the last time a slasher icon went to New York? Yeah. Last time that happened, it turned out to be shit. Can't wait to see Ghostface takes a fucking boat to Vancouver next. It better not be that, but I just don't feel like we really... I get like Scream 2 was released a year after Scream 1, but guys, Wes Craven had a plan. There's a reason it came out a year after. Like, Wes Craven at least planned Scream 2 from the start. He planned sequels when he was doing the first one. He already planned all that stuff. Here, it kind of just seems like Radio Silence just kind of wants to cash in on the success of the fifth movie. And I feel like we don't really need to see a trilogy of Sam Carpenter, because Sam Carpenter just works as a one-and-done character. So yeah, I would have it end with this movie. This would be the only one they made. So, but yeah, the film still kind of plays out the same, except with some minor changes. It makes it look more like a finale to the franchise. Now yeah, it does, once again, it seems ridiculous for Stu to come back, but a lot of fans would say they wouldn't have minded the idea. Plus, it would kind of poke fun at those shitty revivals. Plus, to me anyways. Poke fun at the stupid sequels that revive a character that died. It would kind of poke fun at that stuff. And I decided to go along with the request that they would love to see Stu come back. And to me, it would give Dewey a better death. And instead of being killed by some teenage wimp that is not even the same height as him, and turns out to be a pathetic coward when she's about to die. So yeah, in the end, tell me in the comments below how you guys would think of my Scream 5 edit. And until then, that'll be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.